Here are the notes for the present tense of ER and IR verb conjugation lesson. These notes are to go on page 68. This right side is supposed to be 68 of your interactive notebook. This left side of the page is supposed to be 67 of your interactive notebook. Please pause and highlight as you see here, as you see things highlighted here. There are a few other things that will need to be highlighted that you can't see down here, but I will move that up in just a second. Okay, and then for this other side of the page, we will be completing this in class, but you can go ahead and highlight this now. It doesn't have to be the same colors, but the IR verbs are highlighted one color and the ER verbs are highlighted another color. But you can do any color that you like. It just helps to visually separate the two verbs and organize the page. Okay, now if you are done, let's proceed to learn how to conjugate ER and IR verbs.
Hola. Today's lesson is going to teach you how to conjugate present tense ER and IR verbs. A couple chapters back, I taught you how to conjugate present tense AR verbs. And the good news is that if you feel confident with how to do that process, what the pronouns mean, and how to conjugate present tense AR verbs, then you will probably not have any problem with this because the process is very similar and almost identical except for a few minor details. So since they're so similar, let's review how to conjugate present tense AR verbs, just to refresh your memory. When we learned how to conjugate present tense AR verbs, the first step that we learned was that you drop the AR infinitive ending. For example, we used the verb hablar and we chopped off the AR. So we took that off and we had what was called the stem that was left. Then we needed to decide who was going to be doing the action. For each subject, there is a conjugation ending. For the AR verbs, they were o, as, a, amos, ais, and an. So let's say, for example purposes, I want he or she to be speaking. That's who I want to be doing the action. So to the stem, I choose one of these endings. In this case, it's going to be the a because that is the he, she form. We put that onto the stem, and then it comes together for habla, which means he or she talks. So that is the process for AR verb conjugation. Now let's look at the process for ER-IR verb conjugation. Like I said, the good thing is that the process is really the same. We're dealing with different types of verb endings. The first thing we're going to do when conjugating ER-IR verbs, much like AR verb endings, we're going to take them off. So we're going to take off the ER-IR verb infinitive ending. For comer, which means to eat, we're going to take off the ER. And then for compartir, which means to share, we're going to take off the IR ending. And we have what is called the stem left. And then we need to decide who's going to be doing the action. For example purposes, I'm going to say that you are doing the action, you informally. I'm not showing you the conjugation chart yet. Again, I'm just showing you the process. The next board will show you the conjugation endings. But let's say it's you eat. So we're going to the stem here, I'm going to add es. If you remember the conjugation for you, AR verb conjugation, it's AS. Really, not much has changed, just the A is changed to an E. So we have comes, you eat, and then to the stem of compartir, we add ES as well. For compartes, you share. And so that is how you conjugate ER, IR verbs. Just the process exactly the same. Like I said, the conjugation endings have changed. So let's take a moment and look at those. Okay, so here we see the ER and IR verb conjugation charts side by side so we can compare them because I said there are a lot of similarities. Right off the bat, we can see that there are 4 conjugation forms that are the same for ER and IR verbs. Those are the yo form, tu form, singular form, and plural form. So o, es, e, and in. O, es, e, and in. Exactly the same, which makes your life a lot easier. And really, like I said, the only thing that was really changed with those conjugation endings in comparison to the AR verbs is the A's changed to an E. Everything else stays the same. So again, makes things simple. Now there are two differences for how to conjugate ER and IR verbs, and you can see they're right here. The nosotros and vosotros forms are different. And the reason for that is that these forms, for whatever reason, generally don't change. Whether you're talking about regular verbs or irregular verbs, you can think of them, it might help you to think of them as just staying in their pure form. So since this is an ER verb, we're not going to mess with that, so this is going to stay E. But over here, since this is an IR verb, we're not going to change it to an E like the other forms. We're going to leave it an I. So ER verb would be nosotros, and then the ending is hemos. For the vosotros form, it's going to be es. For nosotros, for IR verbs, it's going to be imos with the I, and vosotros and vosotras is going to be is. Now, an easy way to remember where the accent mark goes on the vosotros forms for both ER and IR verbs is if it's an ER verb, because it's an ER verb, the accent mark is going to go on the E. And for IR verbs, since it's an IR verb, the accent mark is going to go on the I. Same goes for the AR verb conjugation of the vosotros form. The AR verb the accent mark is going to go on the A since it's an AR verb. So that's an easy tip to remember that. Nothing has changed with the conjugation chart. All the pronouns are in the same spot. You conjugate for the same reasons that we conjugated AR verb conjugation. And so these is still first person singular, second person singular, and third person singular on this side. And then over here, first person plural, second person plural, and third person plural. Okay? So really the only difference are these two, and then in comparison to AR verbs, you change the A to an E. Now let's do some practicing with examples. These examples I'm going to do with you. And one tip when you are learning how to conjugate ER and IR verbs, since there are some differences in how you conjugate, it is helpful if you highlight or differentiate when there's an ER verb and IR verb. Especially if you're a visual person, it helps your brain to recognize, okay, now the verb has changed and I need to pay more attention to make sure that I'm not conjugating this the same as an ER verb versus an IR verb, or even when you have practice with AR verbs, put in there to the mix, because that will happen, so you don't conjugate them all the same and make little mistakes that will take points away from your score. Just a tip. Okay, so here are some examples. Tú, beber. So remember, the first thing we do is we take off that infinitive ending. Mucho agua. So trying to say you drink a lot of water. We put the stem, which is babe, and the ending for the to form is es, just like AR verb, except now it's not as, it's es. You change the A to an E. Tuto, escribir, remove the IR. And this is he or she conjugation form. So we're just going to add an E. Tu tuto escribe en clase. Tuto writes in class. Jose y Juli ver. Jose and Juli watch la tele, TV. So we take off that ER. And we're going to conjugate for the they form. It's plural. So ven. Yo correr. Take off the ER. And conjugate for the yo form, which is exactly the same as AR verbs. So just the O. Yo corro mucho cada día. I run a lot every day. Nosotros, abrir. Take off the IR. Conjugate for the nosotros form. Now, be careful because now it has changed. It's not always going to be an E. This is an IR verb, and it's a nosotros form, so we need to remember to have an I and say abrimos and not abremos. Abrimos la puerta, so we open the door. María y yo leer. take off that ER. And this is the we form again. So instead of it being an I like this one, now we're going to have it an E because leer is an ER verb. María y yo leemos el libro. Maria and I read the book. Lolita y tú vivir. So vivir means to live. Take off the IR. And here we're going to have two possible answers because if people from Spain will say it with the vosotros form and everywhere else in the world they'll use the ustedes form. So let's say we are going to use the vosotros form. It's going to be vivís. But if it's the ustedes form, it's going to be viven. Okay, so Lolita y tú vivís en Peru or viven in Peru. So Lolita and you live in Peru, which is a South American country. ¿Quién? Now if you don't remember this from last time, we're still having some problems with it. Remember, ¿quién means who, and it's the singular who. So we don't know who the person is, male or female, but we do know that it's one person. So we're going to conjugate for the singular form. Compartir, take off the IR, and conjugate for the singular form, which is going to be comparte. ¿Quién comparte la comida? Who shares their food? Or who shares the food? Alright, now it is your turn. Okay, vamos a practicar ahora. Please pause the video, and on your piece of paper, I would like you to give this a try, and then when we come back, we'll check all of your answers to see how well you did. Now notice I have not color-coded this for you. I did not underline the IR verbs a different color from the ER verbs. If you would like to do that and you find that helpful, then please do that as well. And then we'll come back and we'll check your answers. Ok, ahora vamos a chequear. Jorge y yo, and we have escribir. So it's an IR verb. We're taking off the IR. And this is the we form, Jorge and I. And this is an IR verb, so make sure you were careful to add imos and not hemos. Escribimos. Jorge y yo escribimos un poema. Jorge and I write a poem. Tú, romper, which means to break. And we're going to conjugate for the tú form, which is rompes. Tú rompes la piñata. You break the piñata. Yo, comer el helado. So yo como el helado. I eat the ice cream. Marcos y yo, comprender, which means to understand. La tarea. So this is an ER verb. So instead of having imos, since this is still the we form, we're going to say hemos this time. Comprendemos la tarea. Marcus and I understand the homework, which is always helpful. Lucia, abrir, IR verb. Lucia, one girl, so this will be the singular form. Abre la puerta. Lucia opens the door. Ignacio y tú, vivir, which means to live. Ignacio and you live in Spain, so since they're living in Spain, they are probably using the vosotros form. So you could say vivís. However, if someone else is talking and they're not from Spain, then they'll use the ustedes form, which would then be viven. So either one of those would be an acceptable conjugation form. Carla y Carlos, beber, which is they. And the answer is beben. Tú y tus amigos, correr. Mucho. So now we have two possible answers for this as well. In Spain, it would be corres. And for the ustedes form, it would be corren. Tú y tus amigos corren mucho. So you and your friends run a lot. Okay? And that is how you conjugate ER, IR verbs. Remember, if you have any questions or anything that's confusing, please feel free to email me, ask me in class, or write your question down on your piece of paper that you will be turning in, and I will be more than happy to answer your questions and explain a little further. Gracias.